Very much, and Senator Feinstein.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You made several remarks as to the integrity and the service of the man before us. I can't help but note it's the first time I've seen just one person at this very long table. I think that is due deference. Director Mueller, I first met you when I was mayor, and I think it was 30 years ago, and you were United States Attorney in San Francisco. I've watched your progress. I've watched you serve two presidents, one Republican, one Democrat. I've watched your extraordinary integrity. I've watched you remove the FBI from certain interrogation having to do with detainees when you didn't think it was appropriate. I consider you to be a man of high integrity and very strong values, and I think that you've brought that also and strengthened it in the organization you represent. I, for one, and I think everyone, very sad to see you go. You look young and vital to me, and
I feel that way too, I might add.
Well, that's good. I wanted to just have a talk with you about these two programs because I go front and center with them as chair of the Intelligence Committee of the Senate. And, you know, we have looked and tried to provide the oversight and see that they follow law. We had a classified briefing, and I'll say one thing about it, for 47 members, and had the former chief judge of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court there to explain how the court proceeds. I, as you do, believe that both these programs are legal, that they are carefully overseen. Senator Leahy mentioned the one that collects phone record data, not the names, but the data, not the content, but the data. Only 22 people have access to it, and it was queried approximately 300 times only this past year. You yourself mentioned that it was responsible and helped in 10 to 12% of the 50 cases where the NSA has said it is helpful. I'm asking you now for a qualitative judgment. I've made mine. How do you judge the 10 to 12% as highly worth it or not worth it?
I think it's very difficult to judge a program in that particular way, particularly a program that will give you a key to preventing a terrorist attack. And how you that one lead you have, how can you differentiate that from 5 or 6 or others that may come up in the same place? Which of those leads is going to be the one to help you disrupt the plot? In my mind, the communications capabilities of terrorists is the weakest link. If we are to prevent terrorist attacks, we have to know and be in their communications. Having the ability to identify a person in the United States, one telephone number with a telephone that the intelligence community is on in Yemen or Somalia or Pakistan or what have you, may prevent that one attack, that Boston or that 9/11. And so on the one hand, yes, it is relevant evidence. Yes, it is critically important that we have that link. And then the question is, when you legislate it and you have this vast volume of records, how do you appropriately give oversight at the Justice Department, in the National Security Division, in the Inspector General's office, through the FISA court, and through Congress? And I think anybody who looks at these programs wants to make certain they are legal, that they're effective, that there's appropriate oversight, because it does raise national security and civil liberties concerns. But once you look at that and once you identify it, then are you going to take the dots off the table, make them unavailable to you when you're trying to prevent the next terrorist attack? That's a question for Congress.
Well, the way I looked at it, particularly with Nazibullah Zazi, was that this was an attack which could have killed hundreds, if not thousands, of people, that he was not going to be the lone perpetrator, that we know there were at least 2 conspirators who were going to participate in it. We know about other things that showed that there were going to be more people. And it seems to me that if we weren't able to protect it, and the New York subway were blown up in a number of different places with hundreds of people or thousands of people literally being killed, that there would be no question as to its value and worth. I have come to believe that the only way we prevent these attacks is good intelligence. How do you get good intelligence when likely one of the conspirators is in another country connected with a terrorist group, and one is in this country prepared to carry it out? So, to me, the value of those programs in preventing loss of life in this country is substantial. Here's the question. Because you have that 10 to 12%, do you think it would be possible not to collect the database, but to be able to query the database if the time for keeping that database was extended to 5 years with the phone companies?
I know Keith Alexander and others are looking at the possibility of restructuring the program in this way. In my mind, there are two disadvantages, maybe three. First of all, there is no records retention requirement on telephone companies at this point, and they are all over the lot. Some may do it, and I throw this out, 18 months, some may be less, some more. And in that database that they keep will be those numbers that are calling the suspect numbers overseas. Secondly, if you have a number in Yemen, that would require you to go to 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 particular carriers with separate legal paper and require them to come and pick up what they have collected and are keeping there and get back to you. The point being, it will take an awfully long time. And in this particular area, when you're trying to prevent terrorist attacks, what you want is that information as to whether or not that number in Yemen is in contact with somebody in the United States almost instantaneously so you can prevent that attack. You cannot wait 3 months, 6 months, a year to get that information, be able to collate it and put it together. Those are the concerns I have about an alternative way of handling this.
Well, let me ask you this. Is it 10 or 12 cases or 10 or 12%?
We have 10 or 12 cases. I should have
10 or 12 cases.
Yes, and some of them are some know 2. I'm not certain whether all of them are 215. They're a combination or one or the other.
I see. Thank you. One other quick question. If people are concerned about privacy, I think the greatest threat to the privacy of Americans is the drone and the use of the drone, and the very few regulations that are on it today, and the booming industry of commercial. You mentioned that you use it for surveillance. What are the privacy strictures on the use of drones by your agency today?
Well, it's very seldom used and generally used in a particular incident where you need the capability. I will have to go back and check in terms of what we keep in terms of the images and the like. But it is very narrowly focused on particularized cases and particularized needs and particularized cases. And that is the principal privacy limitations we have.
I would like to get that information. I think it would be helpful to us legislatively.
I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you very much. Senator Hatch, you are next.
Well, thank you so much, Madam Chairman. Well, I came here today basically to thank you for your service. I also want to thank Senator Feinstein for her kind remarks about you.
Thank you.
Senator Feinstein has done an excellent job on the Intelligence Committee. Up until I left a few years ago, I believe I was the longest-serving person in history on the Intelligence Committee, so I've been fully aware of these matters. And all I can say is I want to pay tribute to you, General Alexander, and others in the intelligence community and the FBI for the work that you've done to protect our country and to ferret out these problems that really could have been very disastrous had we not had the abilities that you've been describing here today. But I also want to personally thank you for the terrific service you've given. I've watched you very carefully. I've been chairman of this committee. I've been ranking member on this committee. I just have to say that I don't know that we've ever had an FBI director as good as you are. And frankly, every one of us has confidence in you and your ability and your integrity. That's a pretty high comment, really, because and it's meant very, very sincerely. I've watched you over the years. I've watched the FBI do the job that in many ways they never get thanked for, and really aren't. In many ways, people don't even know about it. It's a thankless job in many ways, and you've given almost 12 years of your life to this type of work. I just want to personally tell you how much I personally appreciate you and appreciate the FBI and those who have served with you all these years. And I wish you the very, very best when you finally do hang them up here. And I think all of us, or at least I can speak for most all of us, we just think you're terrific. And I won't take any more time, but I just wanted to make sure I let you know just how deeply I feel towards you and those at the FBI who have been doing such a great job all these years.
Well, thank you very much, Senator. I remember you chaired my confirmation hearing. I will not forget that a number of years ago, but I've been very lucky, fortunate to have the opportunity to do this job, which I've loved and enjoyed, and thank you for those comments.
Well, you've done a great job. Thank you.